Hey there, thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Spiritual Scientist. I'm Victor. Thank you for checking me out. Just want to explain a few things. So, maybe I'll call this Mandela Effect 101. I'm going to explain about the deterministic universe. So, right now I am driving a car, so slowing down. But when I step on the accelerator, I'm propelled forward because the physics and mechanics involved in my traveling. So, as Newton states, for every action, there's an opposite reaction. So, in a deterministic universe, one thing always follows another. So if there's a something that happens when you drop an apple falls from a tree, it's going to hit the ground. So that's a deterministic universe. So one thing follows another. That's the universe that we actually exist in now. So for your edification, let me describe it this way. So all information is embedded in time-space. Time-space is with information. According to Bell's theory, we have the information is translated from one place to another. A lot of the universe has the information encoded in the very fabric of the universe itself. So if I move a pencil on a page, it was always, and I write something on the page, it was always written on the page, and it was always done that way. That's what we call history, boys and girls. So but let's introduce something extraneous into this equation. Let's introduce a black hole. So as everyone knows, black hole morphs time and space. So it actually creates quote unquote time ripples. It isn't a one thing. That's why one linear form. That's why they say that black holes are spinning. They're spinning and they're reacting in a certain manner where they create ripples in time space. So we have the idea I'm introducing to you of space in time. So space and time are a higher dimensional integer. That would be something outside of a linear 2D map of the deterministic universe. So for instance, if you had a black hole, and heaven forbid, let's say that it has the ability to pull on the universe, which of course it's doing, otherwise we'd be flying out. But I digress. So what happens is that black hole creates time ripples, and so those time ripples, I'll give you an example. So let's say, and I'll back up for a second. Let's say that you have the ability through meditation or whatever have you not. The brain, scientists are just figuring out, works on like a quantum computer. So it takes that quantum information and it stores it in higher dimensional format in memory. Now, I would surmise that a lot of people do not have the ability to do that. That would be a higher dimensional thinking. So a lot of people do not have that creativeness to use their quantum computer the way they're supposed to use. Now, let's say you have an object. Let's pick one from history. Oh, let's say Jupiter. And let's say Jupiter was always far away from the Earth, that you couldn't see it without the aid of a telescope. Let's pretend. So now we have Jupiter far away from everybody from a telescope, and then you went to school, or I went to school, and was taught, let's say, as an example, that Jupiter, Galileo discovered Jupiter. He was the first one to discover Jupiter. Okay, so now we have that in the history books. That's the way it's always been. That's the way we have it. Now we have a time ripple emanates from the black hole in this example. So we have a time ripple, flies out. So what does a gravitational time ripple do? Well, it might just tighten up things. It might just make things get closer. So let's say in this example that Jupiter, boom, now it's closer to the Earth. Let's say, give an example of that. And so the people in the universe that exist with that would see the example of that happening, and then they would see that it's always been that way, because the time ripple affected all time. It just didn't affect that one moment, you see. So now the history would change, and then Galileo would be on record for discovering quote unquote stars around Jupiter, which were the moons. So now Galileo is famous for discovering the moons around Jupiter. In fact, not just discovering Jupiter itself. In this example, you could see how the Mandela Effect could be changing, history as a scientific example, because of the linearness of the deterministic universe. You'll notice that we, as humans, have the ability for a survival mechanism to see if you're going to throw a spear, where it's going to land. If you're going to throw a rock, it's going to hit that creature in the head. So it's very important for us to have that deterministic mindset. It's actually a survival mechanism. There might be a small integer of the population that would be, as with anything, ability to recognize extraneous, extemporary, I should say, things outside of linear time space. So I'll give you another example. So the heuristic mindset of a 12th dimensional being, when you get to that level of comprehension, Jesus said that the kingdom of God is within. At least that's what the history books say now. But if you look within and you train your mind through meditation and other means, or perhaps just dumb luck, you have the ability to have that memory retained in your quote-unquote quantum computer, embedded into the quantumness of your memory in the synapses. Then when you see the reality change from a deterministic universe, and there's a skip, then the people around you wouldn't notice. So those people would say, oh, that's the way it's always been. But then for the people that actually have that ability, that they could see, they could see the thing change because they have the memory of it. Then that's what the Mandela Effect is. So, for instance, what I have been talking about is a lot of people see that they see words change or logo change or things like that. So that would be an example of a two-dimensional construct changing. So two-dimensional would be a word, right? So that would be an entry into the more of a Mandela Effect type of change, because people would see a word change and they say, hey, this word wasn't the way it is. It was always this way. So that would be a non-linear, looking at it from a non-linear point of view. You would say, gee, that can't be the case. It was always the other way. And then a lot of people say, no, it was always this way. So that's what I'm trying to describe, that the universe is deterministic. And I listened to another TED Talk for 20 minutes from a physicist online who was going over deterministic universe. But what I'm saying is that when, let's use the example of Jesus pulling fish and bread out of, he's pulling out the fish and the bread out of the basket, and he keeps reaching in, there's more fish. Well, how can that be? For some people, they say they see miracles, and some people don't. And that's what this is, and that's what's going on. So that's basically it. I tend to think that was a pesher, and that meant that the fishes and loaves were priests and laymen. That's what they called them back then, but I digress again. I just thought to mention that as an example. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video, and maybe that explains a little bit about my point of view about the basics for the Mandela Effect. Let me know what you think in the comments. I might leave this one up for a little bit. Thanks so much for tuning in. Like, subscribe, share. Have a great day. Bye-bye.